Korea?
I don't know if this sends a message. It doesn't make any difference if it does or not. North Korea is a problem. The problem will be taken care of. I will say this. I think China has really been working very hard.
I think the president, to his credit, is doing the right thing in trying to put pressure on President Xi to put pressure on North Korea.
Bottom line is North Korea's got to change its behavior.
We are taking into account the most aggressive and dangerous option that the U.S. might come up with. We'll go to war if we choose.
The sights and sounds of the North Korea tension. As you take a look at the region, we can tell you that the Vice President, Mike Pence, is heading there to South Korea. This, as reporters have been told to gather in Pyongyang to be taken somewhere. We're told it may be a parade of some sort. They also may be doing a sixth nuclear test. They may fire some sort of missile. We don't know with North Korea. But we do know that the U.S. has the USS Carl Vinson strike group. And it is in the area, in the region, ready and willing to act if so needed. The president has talked about dealing with China and dealing with this diplomatically, but things are tense in that region as of tonight. Let's bring in our panel. Tom Rogan, columnist for National Review and Opportunity Lives. David Kennedy, senior politics writer for U.S. News and World Report. We welcome John Conradi. He's political editor of LifeZette. Tom, first to you. Your thoughts on the back and forth, the rhetoric, really on both sides on this issue.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very serious issue. That goes without saying, but because of the unpredictability of the regime in this case. You look at Iran, for example, there's a long-term political agenda that is informed by Iranian theology. In the case of the North Koreans, with the essential power centered around Kim Jong-un himself, and the unpredictable behavior, whether it be the gout or statements he said before, when that kind of individual has that much power, especially vis-a-vis Seoul, but in the longer term, the development of ballistic missiles, it is a major threat. What do I think is happening? Number one, there is this pressure both over and behind the scenes on China. Looks like the Trump administration is optimistic on that. And in the second point, there is this slow buildup of assets in the region to be able to take military action if the president deems it necessary.
Dave, we've seen China turn away some coal imports from North Korea. They are saying and talking like they're going to help. The Chinese foreign minister on this standoff says amid challenge there is opportunity, amid tensions we will also find a kind of opportunity to return to talks. Whoever provokes the situation, whoever continues to make trouble in this place, they will have to assume historical responsibility. I mean, issuing their own warning, if you will.
And speaking of dark clouds gathering over the region, it is fascinating that you have China and Russia put out a statement today trying to be the peacemaker here and de-escalating the tensions between the two countries. But frankly, this is par for the course for North Korea. For decades, they've been known for bellicose language, provocative threats that in many instances they cannot follow through with, going to war.
They just want to get them back to the table so that they can get food and supplies.
Absolutely, and I also think it is how they position themselves of strength in the region. They scare people with rhetoric. But, you know, the difference, I think, you know, there's the unpredictability of the North Korea regime. I think the difference is the unpredictability of Donald Trump. We don't know how Donald Trump is going to react. I think what you cited there with China, it looks like
it's helping him with China.
It looks like he wants a diplomatic out here and doesn't want to start a war, but we just don't know how Donald Trump makes that decision and who is in the room with him this weekend if he has to make it.
But frankly, isn't that part of the reason that China is coming off the ball? Is because we don't know what President Trump is going to do, as opposed to administration before that couldn't get China to act at all on North Korea?
What we do know is something that Donald Trump has already done this week, and he took some heat for his decision to not label China a currency manipulator. People said that was a reversal of a key campaign pledge. But in some ways, it seems to have already played dividends in terms of getting China into the game to help isolate the North Korean regime. I mean, the North Koreans have always acted bellicose because they knew that the Chinese had their back. If China is truly isolated from the North Koreans, if the North Korean regime is out on an island, they're going to be in big trouble. And they know that a conflict is not something that they can win or that they're going to want to invite.
I want to play this soundbite from the State Department and also former Defense Secretary and CIA Director Leon Panetta.
There's a realization that the time for talk, the time for some of this if I could put it in this kind of long-term negotiation strategy and engagement, is passed.
If we were to try to attack them, they would virtually wipe out Seoul and 20 million people who live in Seoul. And if it became a nuclear war, which is likely, millions of lives would be lost. And that's the reason we haven't pulled the trigger.
Tom?
I think that the particular issue at the moment is that compared to Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un is seen as someone who very potentially might be mentally ill. And I don't say that as a flippant comment. That introduces a whole... it puts everything in the past of the bellicose rhetoric in terms of...
In other words, his father was really out there, but he's way out there.
That he might actually welcome war. The particular issue here... look, I think the U.S. military, in the event of a conflict, there's no question that the United States would prevail. But the cost to Seoul, I don't think Seoul would be overrun. It wouldn't be totally destroyed, but thousands of innocent civilians would die. And the component then of what the North Koreans do along the DMZ with American forces there, it makes it a very, very challenging situation. The ability, though, I think, has to be push the Chinese, make this a priority one issue for the United States. I think Trump is right on trade in doing that because it is so serious. And whatever the Chinese tell us, help guide policy. And that if we can deter him through manifesting this force buildup, do it. But it's an immensely challenging situation for a new president.
David, this also comes, obviously, after the actions in Syria, the 59 Tomahawk cruise missiles, and this Moab, which technically is massive ordnance air blast, this massive bomb, not the mother of all bombs, that's the nickname, but it is psychological. This is a soundbite, actually, back in 2003, when this bomb was created, actually for the Iraq War. This is then Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld, and look closely at one of the reporters in the front row there. But.
Is there a psychological component to this massive new bomb?
There is a psychological component to all aspects of warfare. The goal is to not have a war. The goal is to have the pressure be so great that Saddam Hussein cooperates. Short of that, an unwillingness to cooperate, the goal is to have the capabilities of the coalition so clear and so obvious that there's an enormous disincentive for the Iraqi military to fight against the coalition.
David, Pentagon officials are saying that this was a local decision by the commanders on the ground to deploy this particular tactic.
Right. And yeah, and the White House won't even say if Trump signed off on that or not. I think in the larger context, though, you know, who is better at political theater and intimidation than President Donald Trump? He's the master of it. I think the question is, if North Korea, if there is some sort of test, either a missile test or the 6th nuclear test, how does Trump respond? Does he go back to economics? Does he just fire off tweets? Or is there a military response? I think that is what is unclear, and that's what makes this next 48 hours really precarious.
Yeah, because we're already into Saturday in North Korea, which is the day that they honor the grandfather who was the founder of North Korea. Last word.
And the day after that, you're going to have the vice president be in South Korea, sending an unmistakable message to U.S. allies in the region that the United States will back them up 100%, no matter what the North does.
We will follow it. You can see all the developments here on Fox News Channel.